Hi guys, what's going on? I'm here with Joe. As you can see, Joe is kindly come on to my channel, and we're going to talk about the recent events, what's gone on in the world of boxing. Joe, Manny Pacquiao, Errol Spence has fallen apart. What do you make of what did you make of the news? Obviously, it's very frustrating. Certain fans were not too happy with the breakdown of or basically Spence pulling out, accusing Spence of faking an injury, ducking, etc. What did you make of it, Joe?
I'm incredibly gutted because I really wanted to see the fight myself. I thought it would have been a really good fight. Um, I don't think it really works well for Spence, especially with Maidana getting the same injury. So it's very it's very easy to pull a conspiracy theory on that because a lot of the times with conspiracy theories, you look at the coincidences and then look at the gaps of knowledge, the gaps of information, and make your own mind up. And I don't blame in that situation. I don't blame people for thinking it's a bit sus. But I personally think that Spence didn't duck Pacquiao. I think he just had a really bad sparring session. Of course, there's been news he hasn't been doing well in sparring. Um, and I hope that it's not as bad as a usual the usual injury is. Where it can affect a boxer long term. Um, but yeah, I'm overall gutted. But I don't think it was. I don't think there's any conspiracy there. I think a genuine bad sparring session.
Fair enough. Pacquiao's now gonna step in and fight Ugas, and I know off air we were talking about it, and you think that there's a good chance Pacquiao will get a late stoppage. Firstly, what do you make of Ugas as a boxer? What do you make him as a replacement? And do you think it's a great replacement on short notice for Manny Pacquiao?
I think it is a good replacement on short notice. He is a good boxer, I guess, and as I was saying off camera, I don't think anyone should ever sleep on Ugas. He is a good boxer. Um, it's going to be an entertaining fight, but I genuinely think Pacquiao will stop Ugas, especially in the later rounds. I think Pacquiao will be just too much for Ugas.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Joel, I want to get your opinion on Pacquiao and his standing in boxing. Obviously, Pacquiao is an all-time great without question. One of the greatest fighters of all time. I don't think anyone would dispute that. Where would you, if Manny Pacquiao was to pull it off? I know you were saying earlier off air that you think he may even rank in the top 3 greatest fighters of all time. You currently have him in the top 5. If he was to pull off a win against Spence or Crawford, how incredible would that be for him to do? Because I know you feel that both guys probably beat him at this stage.
Yeah.
Where would you place him if he was to manage to pull a win off against either guy?
I think personally he goes in top 3, and I think he can if he beats Spence and Crawford. I think he takes Mayweather. In my opinion, I think most people will think Mayweather has the better wins and things now, but I think Pacquiao's legacy will carry a lot better than Mayweather's. He's had more competitive fights than Mayweather. Mayweather's had a lot of them, but Manny Pacquiao's had that few more. He's also, it's like I was mentioning off camera. It's almost like he reminds me of a Duran. So Duran was absolutely amazing at the start of his career. In the middle of his career, he had a couple of bad losses. And then he just had that resurgence. He was like a renaissance boxer. He came back, and a bit similar to Foreman. I think when boxers do that, you've got to take that into consideration. You've got to see, when they rejuvenate, you've got to make that then comparison. And I think if Pacquiao can pull off and beat a Spence or beat a Crawford, you've got to put him ahead of Mayweather there. the sheer amount of titles he's won as well. If you were to look at the what title wins, when people look at pound for pound greats, it's the amount of titles won. That's how they make the pound for pound list on a lot of on a lot of charts. So yeah, I think easily top three. I think for legacy, we'll be looking back on Pacquiao, and his legacy will stick out in a very positive manner.
Fair enough, Joe. Fair enough. If a prime Pacquiao, fought Errol Spence or fought Terence Crawford, how would you see those fights playing out? So first Spence and then Crawford.
I think, when it comes to resume, I think Spence has slightly better resume. I think it's a good fight. I think Spence in Pacquiao's prime is a good fight for Pacquiao because Spence likes to go. And, if you look at all of Pacquiao's best fights, it's when he's gone against somebody who packs a punch, who wants to get in down dirt, basically. And I think prime Pacquiao probably beats Spence. Of course, in my opinion, Spence hasn't properly proven himself, but I personally think that Pacquiao's way. I think he's just too quick for a prime Spence in his prime, and he hit a hell of a lot harder in his prime as well. So yeah, I can see that being a good slugfest, but I'm not. That's not going the distance. Prime Pacquiao versus prime Spence, and I think maybe an 8th to 10th round stoppage for Pacquiao.
Fair enough. And Crawford?
I think Crawford gives Pacquiao more trouble. Crawford's a slippery boxer. He's he's more of a pure boxer, defensive, and I think he gives Pacquiao more trouble. But I think Pacquiao beats him on points. Personally, his speed will give Crawford a good fight, but I don't think Pacquiao will knock out Crawford. I think it'll be a close fight, and it'll be a tail. For me, it'll be which fighter did the judges prefer, rather than a lopsided decision. I think it's quite close, because I think Crawford's the right kind of style for Pacquiao to struggle with.
Right. I wanted to ask you, what are your favorite Pacquiao fights? What fights do you think you look back at and think, wow, what a fight that was, and the way he dismantled certain in his he had a purple patch where he was unbelievable, Manny Pacquiao. What fights stand out for you?
The one that stood out for me, and it's technically for all the wrong reasons, was when he beat Hatton. Hatton was one of those boxers that I grew up watching. And I used to sit and watch him on a night, and watching the way he dismantled Hatton. And Hatton was a bruiser. He could take a punch. He kept on going forward, but it's not like Hatton was his hardest opponent, but it's the way he dealt with Hatton. In a way, it really showed how special Pacquiao was. When I saw that, I'd known about Pacquiao, but I didn't take notice until he beat Hatton the way he beat him. So that's one that sticks out. It's probably in a way very painful for me, because, like I said, Hatton was my man. But watching that fight, and anyone who hasn't seen it, I'd advise seeing it if you want to see what made Pacquiao so amazing. Watch that fight, because the way he deals with Hatton is unbelievable.
What about did you watch the Miguel Cotto fight?
I've seen the fight. I didn't watch it live, and I really liked that fight, because essentially I actually thought Cotto would give Pacquiao a much greater fight because of his size. And I think the best way to describe Pacquiao is he's the David of the welterweight division. He's a small boxer, but he's mighty. Another great fight is when he took on got his name now. The person who stuffed his gloves.
Oh, Margarito.
Margarito. His defeat of Margarito was amazing as well. The way he destroyed Margarito, because Margarito wasn't just big for Pacquiao; he was a big welterweight, and
Yeah.
the way he took him apart was unbelievable. I mean, it's really kind of a treasure trove with that period of time for Pacquiao, because he really was like an amazing boxer, and I don't think. I think anyone who wants to criticize Pacquiao on his loss ratio needs to go back and watch that period of time, and people will then probably understand why he was such a special fighter for so many boxing fans, because he wasn't just. I think the best way I describe people like Pacquiao is a rocky fighter. So he's an exciting fighter. He's this kind of fighter that people want to watch, because he's not afraid to take a punch. He's not afraid to get in there and mix it up with big guys. And when Pacquiao was fighting at that stage, he was the most exciting boxer. As much as Mayweather is a tremendous boxer, the problem is with Mayweather is he's such a good defensive boxer that it essentially takes a lot of the spirit out of the fight in a way, because in the back of your head as a boxing fan, you want to think that the other side has a chance, because it makes it a little bit more exciting. But with Pacquiao, David going up against Goliath, and it's what everyone kind of enjoys watching. That's why Mike Tyson was so big. In the 80s, he was a little guy going up against bigger opponents, and like I says, if anyone wants to kind of get to watching Pacquiao, I'd advise watching Hatton, Margarito, Cotto, and the Mosley fight as well. The Mosley fight was a really good
He battered Mosley. He beat a lot of great fighters, legends. Like he destroyed De La Hoya, destroyed Cotto, Margarito. He beat so many. Around that time, he just looked unbelievable. That was definitely his peak. And then obviously I think everybody wanted to see the Mayweather fight around that time, right?
Yeah, and that would have been an incredibly interesting fight. It would have been good to see Mayweather under pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you watch when Mayweather fought people like Mosley, when he had to essentially pull something out to fight, that's when you saw the best of Mayweather. Unfortunately, when they both fought, Pacquiao was not the same boxer. He'd taken some pretty bad L's, and the Marquez knockout, that was for me kind of the end of prime Pacquiao.
Mm-hmm.
Getting the knockout that he did against Marquez was he wasn't the same Pacquiao. So if we'd have seen like a Mayweather Pacquiao, during that time, it would have been a far more entertaining fight.
Yeah, I'd definitely have to agree with you, to be honest with you. It was sad. It was sad that we didn't get that fight during around the 2010 to 12 period.
Yeah.
I think that was the time to really strike. Everybody wanted to see it. And I think it got to the point, Joe, where I think the fight got to a point where actually people, they were fed up.
Yeah.
And then fed up, and not just that, when it did happen, it was kind of a stinker as well, to be honest with you. It was a really, really terrible fight to watch, really. It wasn't the most exciting. And when you've got all-time greats in there, you expect it to be very competitive and back and forth, and like a Hagler Hearns. But Mayweather, he kind of got behind his tricky defense and made it a very difficult night for Pacquiao.
The thing is with Mayweather's style is that style ages slower than Pacquiao's style. Because it's a self-preservation style. So Pacquiao was always going to essentially struggle against Mayweather. I mean, even in his prime, that he would have struggled against Mayweather, but in a way, and I also think that Mayweather was still at he was still at a good level. He was still schooling people. Whereas Pacquiao, he wasn't, and I mean, even when he lost against Mayweather, he went on to continue just not being the same boxer. So I think that the best time to have seen that kind of fight was the 2010s and 2000. Like I would say, I would have said about 2012. But I do feel like the boxing world was completely robbed of a Hall of Fame fight. A fight of the ages essentially, and I think in a way it's a kind of a greater narrative of what's happening at the moment in boxing. Those fights just don't seem to get made as much as they used to. Whereas there was a fight. There was always at least within one decade, there was always one great fight that not only was a competitive fight, but the stakes were so high that it made it so exciting. And I can't think of any real fight that's kind of done that. You can maybe argue Wilder and Fury, but in a way, that's very tainted. That's very tainted competition as well. So with the first fight being a draw when most people thought it wasn't, and the second fight with so many what I'm just going to straight call them excuses from Wilder's camp and from Wilder's fans. I think it tainted anything that was special about that fight.
Cheers, Joel. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming on, and I'd love to have you back on again. If you ever want to come on the live stream, just jump on. You're more than welcome at any time. But yeah, thanks a lot once again. Appreciate having you. And I'll see you again, Joel.
I'll see you soon, buddy.
Take care.
Take care.
Take care. Bye.